In this video, I want to talk to you about sequence, the whole idea of sequence, what it is, what it's used for, what its purpose is in the Leaving Cert melody paper. A sequence is essentially a musical idea that's used and then it's repeated again, starting on a different note. And because it's starting on a different note, as a consequence of that, all subsequent notes are are the same amount higher or lower as the first note. So here's our examples. Your sequence when you're doing the Leaving Cert melody writing paper will always be in your sequence will be in bars 9 and bar 10. Okay, so this is just our example here, bar 9 and bar 10. And as you can see, it's exactly what I described there. In bar 9, you've got your musical idea, and then in bar 10, we've got our sequence. And that's always the way you do it. So because your sequence is stretched across two bars, bars 9 and bar 10, you state your musical idea in bar 9, what we've got in green here, and then you repeat your idea, you sequence your idea rather, in bar 10. And how that works is you essentially take the exact same idea you've got and you move it all either up a step or back down a step. The reason we do it in step, if you were composing a real piece like a symphony or a concerto or something and you had sequences, it doesn't have to move in step. Your sequence can move in leap as well. But for the purpose of Leaving Cert composition paper, it just makes things so much easier on you if you do your movement in step rather than a leap. It leaves far less room for mistakes if you just move in step. So here's our sequence, and here's our idea, and here's our sequence. Our idea, as you can see, it starts on a B flat, then down in step and back up to B flat. So we got B flat, A, B flat, just here. In our sequence, we've got the exact same thing. We've just decided to bring it all up one step. So it goes, instead of going B flat, A, B flat, it goes C, B flat, C. Okay. In our original idea, it then jumps from that B flat down to that F, so it jumps down by a fourth, perfect fourth. Likewise, in this one, it jumps from C down to G, so it jumps down by a fourth. It might not be a perfect interval all the time, it is in this case, but it will be a diatonic leap of the same amount. So if you leapt down by a fourth, it will leap down by a fourth here as well. In this particular sequence, I didn't do it exactly. At the end of my sequence, my original idea, I jumped from that F back up to that B flat, but instead of jumping up in my repetition, I went down. I went from G down to F. And the reason I did that is just to set something up in the following bar. Your sequence doesn't have to be the exact same at the end. My sequence is essentially just these notes. It's these notes here. The first 4 notes of each bar is in sequence. I've changed the last note. So you do have to have a sequence that's an exact repetition, that's up or down a step, but you can leave notes out of the sequence. Like I've left this last note out. And the reason I've done that is just to set myself up for a particular note in the next bar, in bar 11. So that's all the sequence is. It's, you take an idea, then in the that's in bar 9, then in the following bar, bar 10, you restate that whole idea either up one step or down one step. Just so you can see it here, I've got another example. We do the exact same thing. So once again, we're starting in bar 9, and our sequence goes over bar 9 and bar 10. Our idea is originally stated in bar 9, and then it's sequenced in bar 10. So you can see that our original idea, it jumped down in thirds. It leaps of a third each time. So it goes B, down to G sharp, down to E. In our sequence, it does the same thing. It leaps down in thirds, except the whole thing is now starting a degree of the scale lower. So instead of going B, G sharp, E, it goes A, F sharp, D sharp. Then it leaps straight up a whole octave, so it leaps from E to E. In our repetition here, it leaps from D sharp to D sharp, again a leap of a whole octave. When it goes down then, it jumps down from E to B. So it jumps by, again by a fourth, jumping down the way. When you're doing it here, it does the same thing. It jumps from D sharp down to an A, which again, it's not a perfect fourth, but it's a diatonic fourth. It's a fourth in terms of the key scale that we're in right now. So that's what a sequence is. Again, just take an idea, state it, and then do the exact same idea, all starting either a step lower or a step higher. That's what a sequence is. The reason we do that is because right before our sequence, we will have done our modulation. In bars 7 and 8, we will have done our modulation. Likewise in this one, bars 7 and 8, we will have done our modulation. And our sequence is it's a strong musical idea that will help us to re-establish our original key. So for example, in this piece here, this melody, our original key was B flat major. Yeah, it's B flat major. So when we've modulated here, we've modulated it into the dominant. We will have modulated into the key of F major just around here in bars 7 and 8. And we need now to re-establish the key of B flat major. We need to let our listeners know, or the examiner know, that in bars 9 and 10, we are now firmly back in B flat major. We've got a little sequence based on the chord B flat and then movement in a step. And it's a melodic idea because you've just changed key. You've just changed from the dominant back to the original key. You need some kind of musical idea to tie it all together through that period of tonal turbulence, I suppose. And the musical idea you use, it's a sequence. That's what we do. We use a sequence as that musical idea. It's the same here. We were originally in the key of E major. For our modulation, we went into B major, the dominant. Now we're going back into E major, and just to really establish the key of E major through that period of tonal transition, we like to have a strong musical melodic idea that will really help to bring back in that key of E major, and that melodic idea we decide to use is the sequence. And that's all it really is. So that's all you really need to know. The main thing is keep your idea simple. Your original statement of the idea, the bit of circling green, keep it simple. Stepwise movement, or if you are doing leaps as I've done here, try to have it between notes of the chord. This chord here is an E major chord, which E major is made up of the notes E, G sharp and B. And if you look at the idea I've got here, it's made up entirely of B, G sharp, E, E, B. So it's all based on notes of chord 1. Nice simple idea that I can then move around. If the idea is complicated, then when I go to change that either up or down a step, it's going to become more complicated and it might not sound that good. Likewise in this one, we're in the key of B flat. So in B flat, the main notes of chord 1 of the chord of B flat would be B flat, D and F. And if you look here, I've used the notes B flat and F are the main ones I've used. I've used this A note, but that's just the lower auxiliary note where I go B flat down and then back up to B flat down to A, back up to B flat. Again, just a really simple idea that, because it's so simple, allows me to move it up or down a step without anything becoming too complicated. And that is sequence. So, hope that was helpful.